Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Zac Jackson is in the house as he is with us most Fridays, and he's back again as we get ready for the final game of the regular season. Bet Rivers players who place the same game parlay of at least $10 on NFL or NCAA football games will receive an entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning Squares can earn up to a $50 bonus bet per entry. See the Bet Rivers app or website for more details. Zach, how are you this morning?
Bull, is it Thursday? Is it Friday? Is it Tuesday? I haven't known since like September 17th. So
it's and then it's even worse during the holidays. Then, you have weird days off, and I guess it doesn't matter from your perspective. It's whenever the Browns are doing anything.
Yeah, the Browns kind of follow a normal schedule. And
yeah,
I think 15 of the 17 games were 1 o'clock local time. So we go to the last one, and then we wait and we wonder, I have a feeling, you have a feeling. I think there is a little bit of a general feeling.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone knows, outside those walls and specifically one corner of those walls. And I think that the fact that there isn't really a consensus or anyone willing to fully say it just speaks to the uncertainty. Like, we don't know how the folks in charge view things here. And obviously, if you try to apply logic and common sense to many things that have gone on over the decades, it's hard. So, we're waiting to see what Myles Garrett does on Sunday, and we're obviously still watching and evaluating Shedeur Sanders to some extent. But really, it's about what happens when that game ends, and how the next hours and weeks shape the future of this franchise.
It's stunning to me, and I don't mean to, and I'm going to do this not to, badmouth these people, but I just feel like so many people I've spoken to recently, Mary Kay, Ross Tucker, certainly two of the guys I work with on UCSS, Jay Crawford and G. Bush, they all feel like Andrew Berry at least is going to stay, and I kind of think they kind of all think that he should, and then I'm like tearing my hair out because I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm like, yeah, he did a great job picking a linebacker in the second round, and he got Quinshon Judkins right. Okay, well, we all kind of knew that. Nice pick with Harold Fannin. But I look at the entire body of work, and I say, this is crazy. You have no talent on offense, or almost none. It's almost impossible, Zach, to have this little talent on an offense.
It is. The offensive construction is terrible. The overall quarterback thing is terrible. And Deshaun Watson is on his resume. Right. So, look, Deshaun Watson is not the primary, or is not the singular reason that the Browns are where they are. He's the primary reason they are where they are right now, and it looks so bleak going forward. But the offensive construction mistakes have been made. So, yes, there was one good draft. And yes, over the course of his time, there was a way they were going to build the team, which is spend a lot of money, a lot. But, just look at it. They extended Jack Conklin. They extended the kicker. They were just operating like it's fine here, and it hasn't been fine. And the Watson trade is a part of that. So, yes, Andrew Berry needed to have a good draft, and he did. And he has not operated like a guy who's getting fired. The Tyson Campbell trade, very good.
Right, good one.
For the future, right? They needed to get rid of Newsome. Over the course of the year, they have added guys to be under contract. They kept all these undrafted free agents to have some guys to be ready for the future. But the state of the offensive line in the wide receiver core would almost be bad enough to have a guy on the hot seat without the quarterback situation. And the quarterback situation is a disaster and will be a disaster. So, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But those people who make that argument, it stops with the 4th pick of that draft. And it's a hell of an argument because Harold Fannin is phenomenal and ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But the left side of that argument, or the whatever side, it ends right there because the rest of it is bleak. Capital B, bleak. That's where the Cleveland Browns
are. I guess those people, well, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't want to pick on them. But
that's the thing, Bull. This gets personal. Right?
Yeah.
But because people are grasping.
Yes.
Guys, think about what you're saying. There's no case for Andrew Berry keeping his job.
No, there isn't.
I don't see Harold Fannin.
Yeah, people.
Like I said, and I love Harold Fannin.
Yeah. I think people are convincing themselves that the big bad wolf, Paul DePodesta, was making all the picks until this year. That's I think some of this, which is just crazy. But there had to be guys in that front office, whether it's Andrew Berry or whatever, if he's going to keep his job, that when the Browns beat the Steelers, we're like, oh, shit. This is not good.
I think there's a small part of that.
Yeah,
Look, the players wanted to win and the coaches wanted to win and the fans are going to celebrate
sure.
that win. And it was a great win. I mean, the
It
Browns were
was.
thoroughly the better team for
Yes.
60 minutes and deserved to win that game. I do think there's a small part of you look at the whole project, the whole totality, and say, man, we came this far and to get the number 2 pick, and we're not going to because of this, a game we could have easily lost.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think that's a footnote. Like, look, in the grand building here, they're still going to be in position to, add key pieces in this draft at 5 or 6 or 4, at Jacksonville at 22 or 28 or whatever it ends up being, right? Yeah. And we're just getting to the point where those decisions are made. The Browns are not a one-year fix, right? This is not a team with like 15 guys and small. Like this is the first step 2025 was of a full teardown. So you would love to come out with more than just these 4 rookies, obviously, and you'd love to feel good about it, but you're not there. So whoever you're picking and whatever your roadmap ends up being for next April, if you miss out on the quarterback, then obviously you're back in, and that's the frustration there. But Bull, they have to multiple times address the offensive line. They have to multiple times address the playmaking situation, and they have to take an honest look at where these other guys are. One thing they did with this roster is they let it get too old, and that's why the whole offensive line is gone.
Yeah.
Right. They've consistently invested in defensive tackle, and Malik Collins is going to be 31 coming off a major injury. Michael Hall has done nothing. Shelby Harris is 34 and headed for free agency.
Yeah.
Right. So like the timing of this, it's just going to be more about adding good young players. And obviously you are going to make some hard decisions in some ways you go at certain intersections, but this roster got too old. And Conklin's on IR, and Teller's on IR, and Poshik's on IR, and Joel's probably going to retire.
Yeah. And
you're playing one of the worst left tackles in the history of the National Football League.
Besides that, what else is wrong? Let's in terms of the offensive line, right? Obviously, they're going to have to address that. Maybe they might, if they're smart, draft 3 offensive linemen in this draft. Is Luke Whippler? Do you feel at least? Is he potential to be the starting center?
Yeah, because he's on his rookie contract for 1 more year, and he's been in the building. So yeah, that you would feel good about that. Now,
that's it.
You might fall in love with a player in the 60s that you think is your center of the future, and then you take him.
Yeah,
right? But
sure.
But like you're looking at DeJuan Jones and Luke Whippler being under contract for 1 more year, and it cost controlled, and those are guys that are going to be on this team at least in the initial plans, right?
Right.
Good offensive linemen don't hit free agency, and the best ones that do are going to be at the top of the market above the Browns price range. Right. So it's going to be a couple of stopgap guys. In December, Bull, they signed 3 offensive linemen off of other teams' practice squads. Wow. Doesn't mean these guys are good. Yeah. I mean, they're just preparing. This is the desperation mode that they're in.
Yeah.
Right. Because how many picks can you use on the offensive line? I think if you end up with 10 or 11 picks, you can use 3. You probably need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you have to address tackle. No doubt about it. And it doesn't have to say, okay, you don't have to say, okay, we have to get Joe Thomas here, but you have to get a guy that can eventually become a starter somewhere. They just abandoned that. Last year's draft was really good. And Carson Schlesinger is going to get his hardware and deserve it. And Harold Fannin might be the kind of playmaker for many years to come that this team hasn't had. But you have to look at what they did at quarterback, what they didn't do at offensive line. Yeah. And you have to say, hey, let's stop short of giving this an A+, because it's not an A+.
That's right, 100%.
So
now, the only way it would be an A+ is if down the line Shedeur Sanders does become the starting quarterback.
Yeah, and no final grade. Yes. Yeah, and no grade's really given for another season and a half.
That's
on
right.
These guys, right?
That's right.
But the chances of it being an A+ are the same chances that Andrew Berry fixes this team. Right? Like it's just not. People are detached from reality, Bull. If these guys get fired, it's because they didn't come close to winning enough. And it's because even in a year that was an awkward transition, the offense was terrible again. And why was that? It was the construction of the offense now, and it was the lack of anything to make you feel good about the immediate new construction of the offense, because there's not a great young player sitting there other than Harold Fannin. There's nobody in the receiving core. Okay, Isaiah Bond will be better when he has a full training camp. He's not a starting wide receiver.
No.
He's just a guy. Yeah.
He's a 4. Yeah. No, they need 2 tackles, 2 guards, a wide receiver 1, a wide receiver 2,
a running back 2, and a true tight end 1. Because Harold, this is not a knock on Harold Fannin. This is a compliment. He's not like a true tight end. He's an offensive weapon. Right. So to be able to move him and utilize him, you get better players, but he's going to play receiver. He's going to play fullback, slot back, and tight end. He's going to be a tight end on your depth chart, one of 3 that suit up every Sunday. But that's not a guy that you're going to run behind on third and 3.
Not at all. No, that's a good point.
You're going to use him, right? And the David, like they constantly invested in David Njoku over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And he gave them 4 outstanding games at the end of 23. And since then, he gave them nothing. That is another huge miss, the constant investments in David Njoku. He's not under contract, Bull, next year, and his salary cap number is $22 million.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we've gone through the offensive linemen. I mean, there's like $50 million?
Almost 50 in the 6 that are due to hit free agents.
Yeah, so not only do you have no talent on offense, you've got between tight end and offensive line about $70 million worth of cap hits.
That's just for next year. Now, some of that will be reduced. Like if Joel, there's accelerations and things that come off if Joel chooses to retire.
Right. Okay.
And then with the remaining dead money, you can use the post June 1 extra. But that dead money is not going away. It's getting spent at some time.
Yeah.
Just like when you look at their dead money situation, Deshaun Watson doesn't count on it, but there's never been deader money ever than what Deshaun Watson is. And you still owe him 135 on the cap.
Yeah. Oof. All right, in terms of the quarterback situation right now, obviously, if they're going to draft a quarterback in the first round at this point, it's probably going to be the 3rd quarterback. It doesn't seem right
unless they're trading up. Unless
they're trading up. But right now, the Raiders have the first pick. I got to assume they're going to take Mendoza. I guess I don't know, but
that's a fair assumption.
And then the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are picking higher than the Browns now. If the Jets are 3 and the Giants are 2, well, it's a possibility of a trade. If the Browns don't trade up, do you think they're more likely to, let's say in theory, draft the 3rd quarterback in this draft in the 7th pick, or go with Shedeur Sanders versus some sort of veteran next year, see what they got, and then wait another year to address the position if necessary?
Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other, Bull, but I think they're probably not likely to take the 3rd quarterback in this draft. Right. So I think trade up, which doesn't feel likely. I think they're probably more likely to trade for Mac Jones in that situation, or to go Shedeur versus another veteran and versus then a 2nd or 3rd round rookie.
Right.
And kick it down the road there. I think that is more likely right now, but it's all hypotheticals. We don't know who's making that decision. We don't know how people are going to be viewed. And so, until you really get a feel for who's in charge, what those people think, and what their timeline is. Like, look, if they think that this defense is ready-made to be this again next year, and that the AFC North is a mess again next year, when it's shaping up to be that, right? Then maybe you trade a 2nd for Mac Jones, and if you think you can fix some offensive line. But then again, it's all into the ifs. So as I start to spit that out, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's maybe you just spend next year's draft on supplying the offensive weapons, and you hope Shedeur can give you something, and you hope that whomever it is, Trey Lance, for example, or some other reclamation project can give you something. Looking around the league here, Bull, who else might be in total shakeup situations and who might become available. Like it's too early to even really project who that wild card quarterback might be.
Yeah.
And some people foolishly bought the thing that it could be Kenny Pickett this year. And then this team didn't even give him a chance to do it. Right. But like there's going to be somebody. And even if we spent 30 minutes going over who it would be right now, we wouldn't be in any position to narrow it down.
You're right.
Another month or so.
I would stick with Shedeur rather than watch, another veteran and see what he's got. Give him a shot. If you're not going to draft one, I mean.
Well, they're going to draft one.
Yeah, but sure. But
are they going to be drafting one at 85, 85-ish again? Or
right.
In the 60s again.
Yeah.
Right now, if they're at pick 6, I feel pretty confident it's not going to be a quarterback. But I also think that it's just as likely that they're not actually picking at 6, whether they're trading up or even down.
Yeah.
Right. Because the trade down is going to be harder because I think people want to be in 27.
Yeah.
But like if quarterbacks go 1-2 and then there's all these pass rushers and there's Caleb Downs and guys like that, like there are teams that would be willing to come up 4, 5, 6 slots, and the Browns could certainly be in that business. Yeah. Look, whoever's in charge of the Browns on Monday or 4 Mondays from now, Bull, like they have to be looking at having a competitive team in the middle of the 27 season. And people are tired of hearing that, and people don't want to hear that on January 2 of 26. But this is about what the team looks like on Halloween of 27. That's what it is.
What'd you think of both the performance by Mendoza yesterday against Alabama, and what'd you think about the Buckeyes loss the other night?
That's what I've seen from Mendoza all year.
Yeah.
I've been reading up on him. I didn't know a ton about him, obviously.
Yeah.
People didn't. Even I don't stay up to watch Cal all that much. But you know what? Well, the guy
Yeah.
graduated from Cal Business School in 3 years.
Yeah.
He was a small recruit who was begging for attention and a chance, and he's an ascending guy, and
Yeah.
he's a smart guy, and there's a lot to like about him. I think there's a lot to like about Dante Moore too. I don't think Dante Moore is anywhere close to ready, and I don't envy the decision that he has to make on
Yeah.
stay or go, or the teams that have to judge him. He's talented too. Like those guys are good NFL quarterbacks. Now, is either one of them the next Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? I don't know that.
Yeah.
Do I feel like the Raiders or whomever can give themselves a real comfort level of getting behind that guy and building around that guy and thinking that he's going to continue to ascend and represent the organization in a certain way and make throws? Like, yeah, he makes throws. So
Yeah.
he's a big time prospect. And we'll just see. It's so much about how you build and put around. Next year is a second rookie year for Cam Ward. They pulled the plug on his head coach after 6 weeks. He's been playing with rookie receivers all year long.
Yeah.
So it's hard to evaluate these guys, but really you're doing it inside based on the meetings, on the huddle, on what they're really playing with. We know that clouds the Shedeur evaluation. The offensive line is terrible. The wide receiver group is terrible. So Shedeur is certainly, to me, not getting a ton better. I think there's glimpses where you still say, hey, this guy has something.
Yes.
And how is he supposed to perform well? Well, that's a great question.
Yeah. It's hard.
But I think there's a lot to like about Mendoza. And I think yesterday and the Big Ten championship game and the Penn State game in the fourth quarter are all parts of him probably being the runaway number one pick.
And what'd you think? How shocked were you by the Buckeyes loss?
Pretty shocked.
Yeah.
Pretty shocked. I knew Miami would be good enough in the trenches to give them fits and to make it competitive. I thought the quarterback was shaken and played like a freshman, really, for the first time all year, at least the first time in 4 months.
Yep.
Didn't like the game plan, and I think credit to Miami, who won in several key sequences. So, I was fairly stunned because I thought Ohio State would win an ugly one. I didn't think Miami would be able to get over 10 or 13 points, and they barely did on offense. But they dominated the big stretches of that game, and it's interesting. It's the same thing in the NFL playoffs. We finally have a year where it's completely unpredictable.
Yeah.
And nobody had the Final Four being Oregon, Indiana, Ole Miss, and Miami. And what are these AFC NFCs going to be? I don't think anybody knows. And so for us on the outside, I think that's pretty cool for what's coming the next 3-4 weeks.
I agree. It is fascinating. It's wide open in both. And let's wrap it up back with the Browns and Myles Garrett. Obviously, he hasn't broken the sack record yet. I saw Joe Burrow talking yesterday, and Joe was speaking obviously very well of Myles Garrett. They asked him, like, what do you think about possibly giving up that? And he's like, well, you guys sacked me 1 million times, so
11 times more than as much as anybody. Yeah.
So I feel good that he's going to get this. Are you confident, or do you think he's pressing right now at all?
I do think, of course, he is. I am confident he's going to get it. I don't know if they're already going to be down 17-0 by the time that he does, but I am confident that he's going to get it. I am confident that the Bengals' approach will be completely different than the Steelers in terms of if he gets it, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do the Bengals do? They're not out of the Steelers are out of it on 3rd and 3.5. The Bengals aren't out of it on 3rd and 17 with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, right?
Right.
They just play a certain way. So they've seen Myles a lot. Of the 124.5, I think, that he has, Bull, it's 11 with Burrow, 11 with Lamar Jackson. That's really not a surprise that those are the two guys he sacked the most, right? So I think he gets it. I think Burrow has a Burrow day. The Bengals, for whatever reason, are hell-bent on finishing in a certain way. It's probably the money that they spent trying to build a little something there. So without Harold Fannin, I can't see the Browns scoring. I think the Browns get beat badly in this game, but I think their defense does make it uncomfortable, at least early. And then the Bengals go on to win. Myles gets a sack, and everybody's on to the future. And this will be a game like the last couple times they finished the season in Cincinnati, where nobody really remembers, what happened. It's just all about what's immediately next.
Sad but true. Yeah, the Browns defense has made Joe Burrow look human at times, plenty of times, unlike most teams. But I think in the end it's going to be tough. The Bengals offensive is probably the best offensive line Burrow's had right now. They're playing well.
No, it really is, Bull, in this league. It's about small victories.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Bengals have had a hugely disappointing year, and not just with Joe's injury, but like they've got some young guys on defense who are playing better, right? They got an offensive line that's playing better. So They got some interesting decisions to make with who's calling their shots and do they bring Zach Taylor back. But like, it's just really about finding those things. And so it's Miles and Shador to those of us on the outside. Really, this is, all these rookies that are still playing, Dylan Sampson trying to make an NFL career, Rocket Sanders trying to make an NFL career, Isaiah Bond trying to be in the plans, going forward. And those guys are going to get a lot of chances because all those targets that went to Harold Fan and smartly, which shows Shador, to me, that's a thumbs up. It's not a negative of Shador that he targeted Fan so much.
No, not at all.
He knows the one guy you can trust, right?
Yeah.
So without him, I think it's more turnovers, more sacks, and ugly start on both sides, and then the Bengals probably run away with this one.
And then the real decisions happen, as we talked about. Zach, great stuff as always. Thank you for joining me. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, talk soon, Bull.
All right, the great Zac Jackson. Always awesome talking with him. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Thanks to Kyle and Ernie for producing today. I'll be on Sunday. Happy New Year. Of course, I didn't even say Happy New Year at the beginning of the show. I'll be on Sunday following the Browns' final game of the year against the Bengals, and then we wait and see. Does it happen Sunday night? Does it happen Monday? Does it not happen at all? What do the Browns do about their GM, Andrew Berry, and their head coach, Kevin Stefanski? We'll be on, Dustin and I will be on Tuesday at 9 a.m. live, so we'll probably get into it then, if not by Sunday, if we know. All right, folks, everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you next time. Where else but right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.